Hello, this session is on how to manage digital files so they're easy to find. Here are our session goals. The big goals I would love for participants to be able to do is to come up with ways to organize their files, their school's LMS, which is your learning management system, and to make a plan for what you're going to do after this presentation. You will notice each heading of the section that we're talking about is going to have italicized text, and those are going to connect themes from the big five of 40-hour work week to what we're talking about in the session. Quickly about me, my name's Lindsay Waters. I'm currently in my 5th year of teaching. I've predominantly taught 4th and 5th grades, but in the past 4 full school years, it's my 5th one right now, have experienced pretty much every type of instruction you can. I have co-taught, I have been specialized math, science, I have done all 4 subjects, I have team taught, I have self-contained, I've done virtual, I've done hybrid, I've done traditional in person. So I have a lot of experience, and thanks to 40-hour work week, which is the next thing I'll say, I feel that I am in a really healthy place in my career. So even though I'm only in my 5th year, I felt as a brand new teacher burnt out already and questioning how I was going to make it to the end of the school year, let alone to do it again. And so when I found 40-hour work week, it gave me strategies and confidence that I could do this. And here are some really practical ways that I could change what I was doing or change my thinking to make me more efficient and make me more confident. So my goal moving forward is to eventually take the 40-hour leadership or 40-hour instructional coaching courses and be able to support other teachers, especially those new young teachers within my district that maybe need some 40-hour strategies to help them feel more confident and successful. All right, so our first section is going to be on tech organization basics. And this is connected to the big 5. Look for innovative ways to relax any standards that create unnecessary work. So bottom line, pick a product and stick with it. Think about what your school's LMS is. Is your school's LMS a Google Classroom, Schoology, Seesaw, or something else? And I would consider with your LMS, what does your district and your students use that connect to that LMS really easily and seamlessly? So my district, for example, what you're going to see mostly in this presentation, but it is applicable to other products, is Google Drive and Schoology. So those are the products my students use. So those are the products that I use. The first thing, since we're talking about basics, is when you go to organize your files, which is where I would start, is group like things together. So when you're looking at your Google Drive or your Microsoft, your little file on your PC, think, how could I organize these? If you're familiar with on Netflix or Instagram, the home edit, if you think about their process, sort, categorize, and organize. So think first, what can you get rid of? How can you make what you have left into categories? And then how can you organize the files you have into said categories? And I like to encourage, do what makes sense in your brain. So my brain loves the folders. I love to have 0 files out and about floating in my drive, but there are other people that have maybe 3 large files, categories, and then they might have, their general files just floating about. So whatever makes sense to you is what you should do. I highly encourage that you color code. Most teachers that I know color code in person. They color code their files in the classroom. They color code, their bins, or they color code their classes. I would take that same practice and do that digitally. So whatever colors you use in the classroom, I would suggest you use that in your LMS. So in your Google Classroom, your Seesaw, your Schoology pages, and also into your digital files. So this is one that I've learned over the years, and I say specifically age and developmental appropriateness instead of grade level, because every class is different. I've taught 4th grade 3 times and 5th grade twice, and all of those classes are generally around a similar age, but they're all at different developmental levels. So these 3 examples of the images I included are 3 different ways that I've presented my good morning slides to my kids. Some years I've used a lot more text. Some years I've had to really categorize things into clear step 1, step 2, step 3. And some years I've had to use a lot more visuals than text. So whatever makes sense for your classroom is how I would present digital files, but know that it could change throughout the year, or it could change from year to year depending on the developmental, appropriateness or maturity of your class. I think kids are fantastic at giving me feedback. I use Google Forms all the time to ask my kids what they like, what they don't like, and what we can do to make things better. So I typically will keep things one way at the beginning of the year, till about Halloween, and then I'll send out a Google form that asks them, do you like the way that things are organized? Is there something you would change? And then we would go over that information together and see if there's anything that needs to be changed to make it better for my kids. And also, if there's something that works really well for a colleague, I might ask them the similar questions, like, do you like the way you organize your school issue page for math? What's something in it that you think is really effective? If you were to change something, what would you do? And then take that feedback from my colleagues, and I can put that in my classroom as well. All right, the next section is the power of daily slides. This goes with the 40-hour Big Five. Work ahead by batching and avoid multitasking unless the work is mindless. So I use daily slides as a classroom management tool. Here are 2 examples of ways that I've organized my daily slides. I've used the top green one, which is both a visual and text, super simple, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, for a class that needed visuals and needed clear steps. The bottom one is much more text-based, so wouldn't be as appropriate for classes that aren't as proficient in reading, or maybe are apprehensive about reading a lot of information. So there's 2 different ways that I've done it in the past. But whatever way you organize your daily slides, they're easy for everyone to know exactly what the expectation is. And I repeat to my kids constantly, check the board. I don't know, what does the board say? And I like to always leave space. I don't make the text super big so it's taking up the entire slide. So if I need to add a little reminder or we need to change something, I have room on my smartboard or my whiteboard, depending on what classroom, tools you have, to add a little note or write something in. And the last thing that's really important that I feel like when I first started teaching, I didn't think about, but now thanks to 40-hour work week, I do, is the color coding, the consistency, the batching. So if green is math, then everything math related is going to be green. And I like to think of what is a general plan we can have, like that number 1, daily review. Those change every day, every week, but the system of daily review is the same. So I never change that on my slides ever. I've created at the beginning of the year and it sticks now. So that was something to think about when you're thinking of batching. If you want to update things, which we typically do, there are 2 different ways you can do that. You can make a master copy and change and update it as you go. So that's what I've been doing this year, is I'll have, Waters daily slides, and it is the same presentation every day, but I change in and out the plan as needed, because sometimes the plan changes. Like maybe today we're not doing fracks, so I might bump out that little image and move, the Schoology logo up. However, some people like to do weekly slides, and I have done weekly slides in the past, especially with years where your families are really active and they want to see maybe in an email or in your school's LMS what's going on for the week. I might make a weekly slide where I keep all of that week's stuff in it and then just make a copy of that slide for the next week that I might change as I go. Like I was saying before, some years I have shared with parents and guardians through my school's LMS. So I might put in a weekly page and include the slides that we used in class. If your parents aren't super active, or you find as you're going that, the activity level is really low, then this is maybe something that you don't do. All right, the next category of what we're going to talk about, or the next section, is organize your files. So this is a great way to use scheduling to create boundaries around your time. If you color code your files, you can save yourself time, because when you open a file, let's say that is something that a coworker shared with you, a game for science, you can automatically pop it into your blue science folder right then and there. And because of the color coding, it helps your brain know what class you're thinking of and where it needs to go immediately without much thought. Same thing with the categories. So within the folder, for example, if I click my math folder, I like to organize by unit, topic, or perhaps chapter. Sometimes I might do something general like holidays or meet and greet, but whatever categories make sense to you, so that when you want to look for something or a new teacher comes to you and says, hey, do you have anything on multiplication? You can easily find all of your files because of your categories. I like to always point out in all of my categories, I always have a miscellaneous file. However, I would say to keep your miscellaneous file for really general resources. So a really good example of a miscellaneous could be professional duties. So for example, if in my morning meeting folder, something from my district was shared with me that I can't put into one of my categories, I might just stick it in miscellaneous. If you're somebody, though, who doesn't mind the free floating files, then perhaps your miscellaneous is basically the files that are left out of the folders. Again, all the way back from the beginning, make sure you're doing whatever makes sense in your brain. I highly suggest you put things away as you go. So if a coworker shares something with me, I'm going to save it to my drive immediately. I'm going to click that little button that adds it to my Google Drive. I'm going to select which folder it goes into right then and there. However, if you find that you are not able to do it immediately, you could schedule a few times a year to clean up your file. So maybe at the end of a trimester or the beginning of a new trimester, you could go through all your digital files and you could clean them up and organize them in a way that makes sense. I also recommend, as you're cleaning your digital files or keeping yourself organized, to download things as a PDF and keep it digital. So I've worked with people who have had physical workbooks or paper copies that they love to share, and I will immediately or maybe add a folder on my desk that says to scan them in digitally. So when I go to that multiplication folder in my math, file, anything that I own that has to do with multiplication is going to be in there. I don't have, drawers of resources that are paper copies and resources that are digital. And this could be overwhelming if you don't like to do it as you go. Then make a file, like I said, a folder that you could keep that says scan. And once a trimester, you could just scan those in, or perhaps give that to an aide that's a job they could do to scan them in. And that way you have them digitally. All right, this is a huge one because everybody nowadays uses their LMS all day, every day with their students. So working ahead by batching and avoid multitasking unless the work is mindless is the same one Big Five we used before, but also applies to this one. So decide on a format that makes sense to you and be consistent. So if you like to have a daily folder, like my teammate, she does a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday folder, do that. If instead a weekly folder works better for you, do a week 1, week 2, or week of January 8th. And once again, notice how my files in my Schoology page are all color-coded to the same color that my kids' files are in the classroom. So green, money, math, the page is titled in green, and each folder that we're actively using is in green. I like to use gray or black for things that they don't need to worry about actively right now. So that's why you can use those colors for things that are not like on the forefront of their brain or their awareness right now. So speaking to that, I always encourage a folder that's for past things, so that your Schoology page, from the perspective of a student, isn't just this rolling page full of stuff, but the folder I need today or this week is boom right there. And then anything that's in the past, we can just bump into a past folder. And most of the time for elementary, kids aren't really looking in the past. That's more for, I feel like, administration or evaluation purposes. So that's not something that is really for your students quite as much. So if you can organize all that extra junk and put it, out of sight, I feel like that's a lot more developmentally appropriate for them. So on your school's LMS, I would keep the same thought process in mind as your daily slides of age and developmental appropriateness. So some years I've used a lot more visuals than I've used text. I highly encourage using direct links as much as possible so that the kids can literally just click the logo and it takes them exactly where they need to go. So on the right, the math course, this is what I've been using this year because I have a lot of students who are English language learners. So I might pick 2 problems to do each day with a visual too for them. And then put the worksheet in the purple bin when you're done. And that stays the same every day to every week. In the past, I've used a choice board kind of concept, and literally each of those little logos is linked to the website that they're going to, just to help avoid wasting time or confusion of where to go. Okay, so all of that being said, I have created a resource for you. It'll be shared with you as a PDF, but also in this presentation, if you click on it, it'll take you to the actual slide. But what I did was I put some of my favorite videos that dig deeper into managing digital files. So let's say you're a Schoology person and you're like, oh, how did she add a button so that kids could click on, the link directly? I created a link to you to go to a YouTube page of somebody that I follow. That is where I learned how to do that skill. Same thing with Google Classroom, organizing your files, and the power of daily slides. I went and found some of my favorite people that I follow online and have learned a lot from, and I linked some of their videos here for you so that if you need help doing the actual task and you're not sure you want to see it, this is a great place for you to go. However, if you find that you have a specific question and you can't find it in a video, or you want to bounce out an idea or get some advice specifically from me, I'm happy for you to email me at lindsaywaters10@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. I hope it was helpful and you're able to think about a plan moving forward of, okay, what's my next step to organizing my digital files so they're easy to find. And thank you, 40-Hour Workweek, again, for helping me come up with strategies and confidence to manage my time better. And I hope that others who watch these presentations are able to walk away with strategies and confidence as well. All right, goodbye.